Welcome back to the More Than Muscle podcast, where we speak about fitness, mindset, and we bring in a bit about our community. I'm Andy Hatti.
And I am Hattie Fowler, and today we are diving into a topic that probably hits quite close to home for a lot of our listeners and especially a lot of our client base, and that is training when you are over 40.
You know what? I actually like the title of this one.
Yeah, it's nice.
Training when you're over 40, smarter, not softer.
Exactly that, because staying strong, lean and capable after 40 isn't actually about slowing down. It's just about training smarter.
Yeah, and by the way, we're not talking about softer because you get fat. We're talking about, the mindset shifts, all the things, all the excuses that come with some of the work-life things that come along with being over 40, right?
Yeah. Not that I can relate, because this one's probably more closer to home for you than me, because I'm only 24, so...
Shut it, Chase.
Sorry, how old are you? Anyway.
So, yeah, we're going to talk about things like recovery, hormones, mobility, mindset, all those kind of things that, you need to keep progressing as your age is progressing, but you can't be falling into the I'm too old trap.
I never want to hear that. After listening to the podcast, you'll understand that does not exist.
So before we get into it, I want you to understand that both myself and Hattie have helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people like you over 40, and we see some common denominators all the time. We also have to wiggle around and work around some of the work-life balance things that people have individually, but ultimately, let's begin this discussion with some of the changes that we've kind of seen around that 40 mark. So kick off, Hats.
Yeah, okay. So starting off at 40, muscle mass will decline no matter what. It will decline, and it's around 3 to 8% per decade after you turn 30. So it accelerates even more after you turn 50, but that's a big number, so we don't need to go there quite yet. Due to your muscle mass declining, so does your strength, and strength decline is due to the loss of fast twitch muscle fibers and reduced neuromuscular efficiency. But resistance training can slow and even reverse those effects.
I'm glad you said that, because one thing I didn't want to come out of this is that we hear this all the time. I'm over 40, so I've got no muscle mass and I'm never going to be muscular like I once was. And the truth is, yes, it does decline and you are working against it, but we're talking about margins. You can offset it. You can even slow it right down and reverse it. Fast twitch muscle fibers, by the way, are built by lifting weights, and lifting weights at percentages that are challenging. And so, yeah, getting that weight room is important.
Yeah. Recovery time also increases. So your tendons, joints, connective tissue, they all take a little bit longer to adapt. So if you're going through a training session, you may feel a little bit sore afterwards, and it may take a little bit longer to recover. But you can do things and adapt your sessions to help combat that, like sleep quality and rest days and deloads and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's where, smart, progressive, pieced together, periodized training is really important. I can say, look, at 36, yes, I'm underneath the 40, but at 36, I can still do the things that I once did, but most certainly it takes me a lot longer to recover. Your knees, the wear and tear, all those kind of things that come along with training for many, many years. But also, yes, I can train at the intensities that I once did, but if I'm going to acquire the volume, the amount of work that I was doing over time, I just can't do it because recovery takes longer. So in order for me to achieve that, I have to be a bit smarter with my programming. And these are the things that we think about when we're looking after our customers.
A nice little saying that I want you to take away from this, if anything, is think you can train hard, but you just have to recover harder. So you just need to build in these recovery strategies like sleep, mobility, deloads, and active rest days, and just focus more on those sort of resting mobility days. You can still train hard. There is nothing here we are going to let you know about that means that you cannot train hard.
It's mad, isn't it? Because we always say this when we're writing training programs, you're only as good as your restoration, meaning if your recovery is good and you manage residual fatigue that often comes up parallel, well, indeed it will, not often, will come parallel to the work output. if you can manage that, then you can get stronger and stronger. And this applies to anybody, not just over 40.
Very true, yeah.
It just starts exaggerating more, and you
Yeah.
have to really think about these principles with your training.
Again, smarter, not softer. Another thing that we often see change in people as they get over 40 is men will have a gradual drop in testosterone, and that's about 1% after every year when you're 30. Women, very commonly and probably more talked about, you've got perimenopause and menopause, which brings a decline in your estrogen and progesterone, which again affects recovery, sleep and muscle retention.
I just want to hone in on this because there are so many supplement companies at the moment saying, if you're a man over 40, you need to have testosterone. True, but why don't we begin with, when you weight train, you resistance train, you strength train, you can actually produce decent levels. Yes, of course, there's people that need help, of course. But it's one of the most natural boosting ways to increase your hormonal profiles is to train. Especially true if you're thinking about your sleep quality, your recovery time, and you're periodizing things properly. It's when things are overloaded, there's too much stimulus, there's not enough sleep, there's a lot of caffeine, there's under eating. When you look at all of these kind of things, yes, of course, it could be impacted. But I think this applies to everyone.
Yeah, I think it does. But from the hormonal shifts, the key thing is resistance training and adequate protein, which we'll move on to. They help balance out those hormones naturally. So there's no need for these supplementations and stuff like that if you just stick to a regular training program.
Yeah, and again, I just want to hone in on this testosterone one because I've got a lot of friends talking about this at the moment. And they're in fear. They're like, oh my God, I took a test over the internet that they sent to me on like some TikTok thing and my testosterone's low. Oh my God. And then when they go and see, proper practitioners at, somewhere like Harley Street, for example, they're like, relax, you're still within the range. We need to look at this over 6 to 12 months to see the impact of things. It's likely because you're not eating much and you're dieting too much and you're trying to get lean and there's way too much output. So don't get scared about this. But as Hattie said, it's definitely something that occurs as you get older.
Yeah. Going back to protein, if you lift heavy and you maintain muscle mass, you will keep a high metabolism rate. And that the problem with people over 40s when they don't train is they have less muscle, which means fewer calories are burnt daily. So your resting metabolism or metabolic rate tends to drop with age. So one thing that I would recommend is just to track nutrition, prioritize protein and sort of nutrient-dense foods alongside your training.
Defo, 100%. And, we see this all the time. It's like, oh, my God, I need to diet because I need to get lean. I need to do lots of output because I need to get lean. That's all I really want to achieve. But as a sub of not doing your strength training and not having your protein, you kind of counteract some of the most important variables with your health. And this is what Hattie's talking about.
Yeah, it's like a cycle, isn't it? The more you don't do of something, the more you feel rubbish. So the more you don't do of something. And I think the key takeaway from this is no matter what your age is, there is a program that can be put in place for you to help combat all of these problems. And it is through resistance training.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're not trying to scaremonger you. This is just things that are apparent. But let's just flip the lid on this. We've seen, firsthand working with our customers, but also working with prospects coming in.
Yeah.
We've got clients in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, right? And it's quite clear to see the ones that were strength training in their 20s and 30s or the ones that have gone, right, I'm 40, I need to get on with this, versus the ones that are coming in a lot later who have got, metabolic disorders, they've got sarcopenia, they've got osteoporosis, they've got things that are going on because perhaps they weren't looking after what they should have been looking after a lot earlier with regards to strength and conditioning. Yeah,
I think that's a big thing, especially those of you that are listening that have children or people of younger age that I think the more that we can push exercising onto these people, the better the outcome is going to be for them in their later life as well.
And I actually did a post kind of on this today. Strength training is in the media at the moment quite a lot because we understand the effects that it can bring. It's really positive. But one of the reasons why people don't kind of jump on is because they're scared to squat, deadlift, do these kind of big, masculine looking kind of media grunting, dangerous exercises, let's say, because they're not dangerous, but they could look like that, right?
Yeah.
The reality is resistance training and strength training doesn't need to sit around deadlifts, squats,
No.
bench presses, and all of these things. There are millions of ways in which we can load the body, and what we're trying to suggest is resistance training is what's needed. And if you are going to go down the route of doing those big things, make sure you get a good coach that knows how the skills are taught, how they can help you, how they can look around some of the contraindications you might have. But don't be fearful of strength training just being about those things, because it's likely that these are the kind of things you're going to read in the media, and it's not the truth at all.
Yeah, it's that mindset change, isn't it? It's people in their 40s need to shift from that sort of maxing out, always going for PBs, to sort of more of like a train for life sort of mentality, and focusing on more of the sustainability, the progression and movement quality, rather than chasing these numbers all the time, which is often portrayed in the media.
Exactly. Motion is the potion. I love them bars.
Bars for days.
Cool. All right. So we've scared the nation now. But
absolutely.
This stuff is actually well documented. It's not like we've just pulled it out. One thing that we have is we've got first-hand experience of working with people that are either struggling with this or they're offsetting this. So why don't we speak about now the adaptations that are needed to kind of help things not be like this? Because ultimately the reason why we have this is to help you. Either you're going to come to us and ask for help, or you can take some of the information and run with it. Excuse the pun, run. We want you to lift. But what are some of the adaptations needed to help people overcome these things?
So sort of the pillars of success is what you're talking about here, isn't it? So number one, and this is obvious, it's a More Than Muscle podcast, strength training is essential. It's going to keep your metabolism high. It's going to support your bone density. Though we've just spoken about lifts, I do think that prioritizing these compound lifts where you're moving your entire body, so your squats, your hinges, your presses, your pulls, with perfect form and with the correct trainer is going to be really, really important. But actually focusing on your control, technique, tension, rather than just load is really important.
Yeah, I just want to step back because you said something really good about the hinging, squat and blah, blah, blah. These are your primal patterns. I like to call them like that. And you hinge. Think about how many times you have to hinge, and I'm not talking about on a dating app. I'm talking about how many times you have to pick things up in your day, how many times you have to squat so that you don't hurt your back when you're picking things up, how many times you have to push things away from you, pull things towards you, twist, turn, run. These are kind of primal movements. Your aim in the gym should be about trying to make these more resilient.
Yeah.
And the adaptations you will see is you get stronger, you get more robust, there's less injuries, and like Hattie said, those fast twitch muscle fibers, if you're loading them like progressively over time and they're actually stimulating, they're not like wasted junk volume. We'll get onto this. You'll build fast twitch muscle fibers.
Absolutely.
And your joint resilience, your tendon health, all of these kind of things will be so much better for you.
Mastering the basics is what you've basically just summarised there. And I would say it's just remembering to build capacity for life. Like you just said, all of those movements that sound really scary, that everyone emphasises in the gym, you use in your day-to-day life. And it's all about like challenging yourself so it's heavy enough that it feels like a challenge, but you're not breaking yourself. And the progress might be slow, but it's all about that consistency.
Yeah. And okay, so one of the things that we want the public to run away with here is, all right, I'm 40. We've got some of these problems going on, like I work long hours, I'm stressed. When I get home, my priority is the family, the baby, the kids, the wife, the husband, meals being cooked, all of these kind of things. How can I get things rolling so that I can actually find a way so that I can train? Because I know this is important for my health, but I've got to somehow get this in. So we've got down here some of the pillars of programming that I think are really important. Volume, intensity, frequency, and mobility prep. But we'll roll through these because this is important, because if you don't understand how these interact with each other, you then end up just having a load of junk that you train with. Residual fatigue will elevate as you're training, but equally, you can be very smart about how you piece small workouts together to fit into your day. So I don't know, do you want to roll with what volume is, Hats?
So volume is the amount that you do, but the key thing I would say about this is it's going to have to be quality over quantity. So just because your time is precious, as Andy's just listed, and I think that if you can spare 20 minutes 3 to 4 times a week even, less volume is going to be better. But as long as what you're doing is important.
Yeah, and again, I want to hone in on that because You hear these things, quality over quantity, but no one ever bloody listens, do they? We see this at Christmas, New Year's. Everyone's like, right, Andy, I'm going to train with you 5 times a week. We're going to do 10 classes. We're going to do WWC every single week. We're going to eat grass and we're going to do nothing else but that. It lasts about a week. You hit the wall. You get a crash and burn and you're like, oh. The truth is, your volume is the amount of work you do, as Hattie says. And we need to find a volume that you can stick to. So the correct volume, in layman's terms, to the normal person in the general pop is, what is the amount of volume you can stick to currently? How can we build on that? And how can we keep that quality really high?
Yeah.
And then you can fit it in. Intensity, this is where things change and you progress. Intensity is how hard you're working, right? Now we're talking about those fast twitch muscle fibers, but also if you're not lifting heavy enough to the desired reps or whatever it is that you're programmed in, all you're actually doing is acquiring a load of junk volume that you don't need. So this is where this crossover and this kind of like relationship is built, where you have to understand how much volume you need to do versus how hard you're going to work.
Yeah, it's that they always match together. You always demonstrate, and I think I wish I could show you, but there's a really nice graph with volume and intensity and how they interact, and they do interact, and it's really important that you understand how they interact and control it. With the intensity, you can still lift heavy in these little volume outputs that you're doing, but I think that bearing in mind some deload weeks or some mobility work and stuff like that in between is really important, and not putting pressure on yourself to always to push yourself in every single exercise session that you do.
Yeah, and this is why you should have listened to last week's episode about how you do your loading structures. So what I was going to say is, this is why we talk about rep spreads. You write a rep spread in so that you don't waste too much volume. You know exactly, like, the last 2 repetitions are going to be challenging. I know that this is not a wasted set. I've actually selected the right amount. And then as you've trained over weeks and weeks, you can start thinking about how many reps do I have in reserve based on that that benchmark that I've created. What percentage am I working? Am I working hard enough, or is this like, am I just lifting for the sake of it? Is this a deload week, like he says, where I can actually afford to maybe lift less or lift less volume?
Yeah.
Like, once you understand these things, you can factor things in, because, you know, we've seen people make progress on as little as 1 to 2 sets, as long as they were working hard enough for it, and they can build off that over time.
Yeah.
So when time's a problem, these things are really important to understand, but more importantly, we spoke about the recovery rate.
Yes.
You're only as good as your recovery rate. So if you can't recover on, you know, more than 2 sets, then that's your volume threshold for now, and we have to build on that.
Yeah. Look at it like this. 3 to 4 well-structured sessions is going to beat 6 half-recovered ones. So you've got to pick a volume that is attainable and stick, like, that you know you can stick to, and an intensity that fits that, so that you're well recovered and ready to go for the next session. You don't need to force a load of stuff in. It needs to be the right volume and intensity for you.
Yeah, and I want to hone in again on that with what Hattie's saying is 3 to 4 is better than 6 stupid sessions that you don't need. But what we have seen over the years is that people can make absolute progress on anywhere between 1 and 3 full body sessions.
Absolutely.
Throughout the week. So that's not to say you need to do 3 to 4. What Hattie's saying is you don't need loads and loads and loads of junk volume that, you know, people say, I'm going to train 7 days a week and I'm never going to have a cheat meal. I'm never going to do it. So it's important to understand these things, because actually you can get going, you can build upon what you start with, and this is the last thing. You don't need motivation. Every single one of you are motivated. I know this because you're listening to this podcast, and you're listening to this podcast not because you like me and Hattie, it's because you're interested and you want to find a way. Well,
some people quite like us.
I hope they do. But the truth is, mate, you're interested, you're motivated. The issue is you haven't got any momentum. And if you understand the things that we've just spoken about, then you can piece something together that is bite-sized enough that you can build upon, and that momentum starts snowballing. You flex your willpower muscle. I love that. Small wins.
Oh,
you
small
don't
wins.
need, remember,
attainable goals.
you don't need confidence to win. You need winning to build confidence.
Oof, I like that.
Bars.
That's nice.
I know. But the truth is, you can play with those things so that you can bite-size it, build it, and grow it, and you don't need a heap. You just need to begin.
And we talked about recovery as well in this little section. I do want to say that mobility and prep work before your workouts are going to help you recover better. So making sure you warm up properly, making sure that you cool down. They're kind of non-negotiables, and they're going to actually benefit you They're going to allow you to recover quicker, adaptations to occur, and muscles to repair a little bit better.
Yeah, we have a thing. We've got a 30-day More Than Muscle Mobility Challenge. Guess what? Every single personal trainer in Guildford is doing our mobility work, even the ones that are left and stole our clients. But anyway, that being said, everybody's doing our mobility stuff. But what we know is the people that are actually doing this are seeing themselves move better, be pain-free. And at 40 plus, we're going to start having shoulder niggles, elbow niggles, lower back niggles, all those things that come along with stuff. So what Hatti's saying is if you can move better and you're pain-free, the likelihood is, you know, when you've got that like devil and angel on your shoulder and you're like, should I go to the gym or should I just stay home and watch EastEnders?
I think I've just got a devil and a devil.
Yeah, you just
I
got
don't have an
devil,
angel,
innit?
I don't think.
But when you have that crossroads in your head, when you're feeling good and you've been doing your 10-minute little mobility drills that you do for 30 days at home, you probably go to the gym because you've got momentum. And momentum is where it all begins. So don't make it an upward task for yourself. Start at the top.
This is where you can start. You can warm up thoroughly, mobility balance, don't skip cool downs. You're going to protect your gains. And like Andy said, that snowball effect is going to start occurring. And you're going to fly.
Yeah, exactly that. So like the pillars. We want to try and keep your metabolism high, at least sustain it for as long as possible. We don't want to see too many drop-offs. And the way in which you're going to do that is through those primal movement patterns that we were talking about. But more importantly, lifting hard enough at a volume that you can attain for time.
Yep. Supports bone density as well. I know that a lot of women that go through menopause and perimenopause, a lot of the worries that they have is about bone density. And I hear a lot of people at the WWC going, I can't squat, I can't hinge, I can't deadlift because my bones are going to break.
Yeah.
The more you move under the bar, heavy enough to challenge but not to break, the better your bone density is going to be.
Yeah, and after 40, I even want to change this claim. I think after the age of 16. But anyway, that's a different thing. But after 40, strength training is not optional. In my opinion, it's essential. And the reason why I said 16 is I think if it was taught earlier, we wouldn't even be having podcasts like this because people would understand how to, one, apply it and also the impact. But it's even more essential as you get older because strength is the mother of all qualities when everything else is equal. And the one thing that we leak as we age is strength. I know, I've been doing
What's
this a long time.
going on?
I don't know, man. I think it was that
Have
Red
your
Bull.
Weetabix
It was
this
the Red Bull,
morning.
man.
Jeez.
It was the Red Bull before I started.
That's crazy.
So it's really important. You lift heavy enough. You don't have junk. But more importantly, I meant junk ego, like ego lifting, junk volume. But more importantly, it's not about how you look in your vest. It's about how you perform your best.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with me today,
What's
man?
going on?
Jesus. I wish I had like a Charlie Sloth thing where it's like, ba-ba-ba-bum.
I'll do it. Next time you do a bar, I'll do it.
I think the last thing on this little topic is about the rate of progression.
Yeah.
There isn't like a stimulus to say it needs to be done in the next 6 weeks or it needs to be done in the next 5 weeks. At the end of the day, you're not trying to compete. It's not like there's an event. We're trying to live longer. And so enjoy that. Don't put the stimulus. And I think that's how you build momentum, isn't it? You're enjoying what you're doing. There's no stress on it. You're progressing steadily and you're aiming not to break, basically.
Yeah, you want to prevent burnouts, and you want to keep your consistency high. And I think having unattainable goals or comparisons and stuff like that is the wrong mindset to go into with this. I think, like you say, it needs to be less about aesthetics and more about training for life.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about training at the moment, but recovery, sleep. Sleep is the mother of all qualities.
No, you're not. That's not a good one. You're not going to get a blah, 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 blah for that.
I've already used the mother of all
Yeah.
qualities. But he who sleeps the best lives the best. That is true. But we see this, like people that are sleeping better, they train better. And that is because you're not spent. And I understand the work-life balance, the childcare, getting up in the middle of the night. We're going through it right now. I get it. But if you can try and prioritize your sleep, everything else gets better as a consequence of these things. Let's talk about nutrition because Hats, you wanted to talk about protein. I think it's one of the most under-eated, even though it's the most overvalued.
It's the one that everyone talks about, yet people still can't get it right.
It's because you've got to cook it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know.
Protein is king.
It is.
Now, I could throw some fancy numbers at you, but you know this. You know the higher your protein level is, you're going to perform better, you're going to recover better. It's so important, and it's it's for your hormones, for your performance, for everything that we've mentioned above. Eating nutrition for longevity and performance is really, really important.
Yeah.
Do we need to say the number? Does it matter? Just eat more protein?
I think it would be nice to, for the simple fact that the government guidelines or the NHS's guidelines are super low.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. It's a lot higher than you think it is.
Yeah, so the number I was taught at uni and the number that I'm sure Andy would reference as well is anywhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per your kilogram of body weight. Now, what's nice about this is it's relative to every individual and the ranges are really nice. So if you're training a little bit lighter and you're not pushing that hard and the intensity is not incredibly high, you can get away with 1.6 grams. Whereas if you're someone like Andy who trains every single day,
not that much.
you kind of do. He's bulky, he's big. I don't want to admit it, but he's big right now. He would probably need to be right up at the top of that scale, or even more, around 2.2 grams. Now that doesn't sound like a lot. How much do you weigh, if you don't mind you asking?
92-ish.
Okay, so Andy's looking at about 180 grams of protein per day.
Yeah. And the reason for this is, one, it helps with, protein synthesis, it helps with muscle repair, but it also helps with satiety, immunity. There's a whole host of benefits that protein does. One thing I would say is when your calories are on the lower side, then you're probably going to have higher side of that scale with protein. So you females who are having less, you're probably going to need to eat more protein, and we see that.
Yeah.
Equally, if you're dieting quite hard, and that's what you're doing, not saying that you should be, but some people are, you would likely have more for satiety, and it's muscle sparing. Yeah. Equally, if you're eating loads and loads and loads of calories, you probably don't need so much because you've got things like carbohydrates that are also going to assist, and things like that come along with all of that food that you're eating. And
you can be smart and you can time your carbs for energy and repair, and you can supplement if needed. But I do think the one thing to take away from this, over 40s, under 40s, everybody, is protein is king. Yeah. And last thing I promise on this protein is, we talk about these numbers, but equally, the most important thing is whatever you're eating now, if it's under that, you should be trying to build it. Yeah. And you just get it up. If it's like 1 you're having, try and do 1.2, like build there. The problem with protein is it's expensive. Yeah, I get it. But it's not just expensive in cash, it's expensive in time for a lot of people because you've got to cook things and it makes it harder. But it's important. You're going to hate that I'm about to do this and I'm going to apologise in advance. No, I'm going to do it and you can't stop me because you've given me a mic, so this is your fault. Jesus. I'm not a vegan. Good. But I have been eating vegan mainly food recently, and I must say it's a lot easier than I thought it would be to get your protein in without any meat. Of course. So if they can do it, and me, you can do it too. Exactly. But I'm not a vegan. I know. Thank God. I love steak. Cool. Next bit is, if people were to work with more than muscle, let's talk about this, because at the end of the day, we've seen some real world shit. I swore. Why did I do that? But anyway, I don't know. I like it. Felt powerful. Real world shit. Some coaching insights, and how can we help this demographic? Because it is basically the largest. I would say the majority of our clients are 40 plus. We have a few under, but actually a lot of the principles that we use with those people that are under 40 are actually fairly similar. There's not too much. I run a class. I always am going to push this on this podcast. I run a class for women only, and we do weightlifting. And we have got women in their 40s and 50s hitting PBs that they never thought were possible. And that's because the programs that we're giving them fit their lifestyle, not someone else's. And we're teaching them to understand why they're training that way. We kind of have numbers, but they're the least of our worries. Who cares? We're there. We're in an environment where it's community. We do track performance. We want recovery and sleep quality and movement patterns to be tracked, but they're just under the bar and they're moving, and that is the most important part. And the thing that, if you remember and cast back in this episode, Hattie said how important frequency is. The most important thing is that you're showing up frequently. And so
making sure that there isn't too big stigmas on why you should be turning up at this stage is how you keep coming back. Are you enjoying what you're doing? Can you progress on it? Is the volume not too much that you can stick to and you can build from? All of these things are what we're measuring above PBs. So for us, the biggest PB that some of these females were doing was actually stepping into the gym. That was the PB.
That was amazing.
Now they've got benchmarks because we're talking nearly 2 years later, 50 women deep. We're building on principles, and for us, frequency is the biggest key. You keep showing up, you keep building, and your resilience will come, and you'll see the changes.
And I think for these women, they initially came to build strength, but what they've actually done is built their confidence. And I think that I will preach to the moon and back that these women should be so proud of themselves and everything that they've achieved.
So, okay, that being said, there are things that we should be tracking.
Yes.
One of the biggest ones is sleep, because people say, I've had 2 hours sleep. I trained someone this morning, I won't say who they are. I actually trained someone yesterday, I won't say who they are. Both times they didn't perform as we've been doing throughout the whole block. I said, have you eaten? Yep. Are you finding this too heavy? Nope. It's the same as what we were doing the week before. I didn't sleep last night, I was working late. So it has a huge impact, even if you're not thinking about it. It does. It affects how sore you are. It affects your mood, your energy. Sometimes, like, when I train, I like to have a bit of aggression. The music's on and it pushes me through. You don't even have that. You feel spent. Yeah. So tracking how you're feeling, like your sleep score, how you feel, is key. And those of you that wear Whoop watches and like the latest smartwatches and stuff like that, you'll see these kind of metrics popping up.
On that, it allows us as trainers to adapt your training sessions to fit where you're at as well. So like we were saying earlier, quality over quantity, we can then adjust and address these sessions so that you get the best out of what you've got with what you've arrived with. Yeah. So just because you have no sleep, you've done that first thing, you've arrived, and now it's up to us to adapt to make sure that you get the most out of that session.
Yeah, and you know what? The next thing that I want to speak about is there's lots of literature out there that says you don't need to change your workouts around, just stick to the same thing and you'll continue progressing. People change their workouts too often. That's true. However, we're working with people, not robots. I would be bored out of my mind if I had the same workout for a year or 6 months. The other thing is, we're also working with a population that do have wear and tear. We're working with a population that could do with learning new skills. And so rotating your workouts will offset wear and tear. It will keep them moving through different patterns. But when we talk about muscle fibers that we want to build, that variation is also going to help those patterns, those movements, those fibers that we need to build. So we recommend that you change. Hats has got here every 6 to 8 weeks. I would say from 4 to 8, like... I don't think we need to be so rigid with literature when we're working with people because...
No, exactly that. I think one thing I've learned after going through uni and then doing this job practically is you can do what the piece of paper says in front of you, but actually it's learning to adapt to the person that's in front of you.
Bang, that is the one. And I love this one, train movements, not just muscles. Everyone's like, what muscle does this work? Don't worry about the muscle, bruv. Move properly, feel it out, locomote, the muscles will work.
Exactly.
And you can use that.
That's it. And I think one of the things that we do really well, or I hope that we as a company, I think we embody this very well, is actually to just celebrate the sustainability of what they're doing rather than these numbers and these PBs. Now, yes, if you've hit a PB, fantastic. But I think it's these small wins and small encouragements that we can give. Like we were saying earlier, you've walked through that gym door. That's sustainability. You're on the right path. It's celebrating these little wins that's really, really important.
It's funny, like, we're just going to slowly wind out this episode. But it's funny, right? You see on Instagram, those of you that are on it, I think I read somewhere that 3 billion people in the world are on Instagram. And
3 billion?
I think there's 8 billion people in the world, I think. And bearing in mind, like, there's certain countries that don't have Instagram. I think that's like 2 billion people. So that's
crazy.
5. And then bearing in mind how many of those are kids and whatever. We're basically saying everyone's on Instagram. So I'm sure you've seen it. But you see things like, if you can lift 100 kilos on the bench press, then you're in the 1% club. If you can do a chin up, then you're in the 1% club. I reckon our lifters at 40, 50 plus are probably up in the 1% club. I trained a woman today who's definitely in her 60s, and she thinks that she's not as good as she actually is. She is fit, strong. If I'm like that at 60, I'm buzzing.
We're winning. I think our 40 plus lifters are our strongest.
Yeah. So
I think so.
And we know those people that have invested time at that age, when they get to 50, 60, 70, they've set themselves up and they're doing really well. I mean, again, I trained a guy this morning who's 70 this year, and you're like, this guy can touch his toes. This guy can do a dumbbell press that's heavier than some of the 16-year-olds I've seen.
Yeah, he also wears really cool T-shirts.
Yeah, and he's got really good jokes.
Yeah, we love him. We love you.
You know, like, these things are really, really important. And what we're trying to chase is, like, not exhaustion. We're trying to chase performance, longevity, and guess what? Actually enjoying your bloody training, mate. Because it's part of you.
That's the bit. That's going to give you the motivation, and that's going to give you the push to keep going. Age does not limit you, but ego and poor planning do.
It shouldn't be a chore.
No, it's not. And with us, I don't think it is, but you never know. So to wrap up, I would say strength training after 40 is a non-negotiable essential for longevity.
I mean, I would go even further.
I know, but the title of the podcast is 40 plus.
Basically, what we're saying is, don't wait. You should have started already.
Yeah, it's too late. Go now. You need to prioritize recovery, and consistency is always going to be intensity every single time.
Yeah. And, you know, where do you think these guys can find us?
Oh my goodness. Do they not know yet?
They should.
Well, you can follow us on Instagram, 3 billion, all 3 billion of you. If we don't have 3 billion followers by the end of this podcast, I quit. At More Than Muscle Ltd. Or you can visit our website at www.morethanmuscle.co.uk. And after hearing all this, if you're ready to start training the smart way, you can drop us a message.
Yeah, you can work with us in person, online, or you can go to Hatti's Women's Weightlifting Collective, if you're a female, by the way, not if you're a male.
Sorry about that.
Where a lot of what we're talking about is mainly what this class is completely about.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. If you're 40 plus and want to learn how to train, check us out.
Bosh.
Bye.
See ya.